Hi, I'm Beth Prandini, a yoga teacher and yoga therapist in Santa Monica, California. This class is yoga for wrist pain. And when it comes to wrist pain in yoga, it can be very difficult since many of the popular styles of yoga involve weight bearing on the wrists, especially vinyasa flow. So I have 3 strategies that I'd like to explore with you today. The first strategy would be avoiding pain. Obviously, if something is bringing you pain, back out. So I will teach variations of poses that simply involve avoiding or working around the wrist pain. The second strategy is once you are rehabbing the issue and you understand what hurts, is then exposing your body to the ranges of motion with a little bit of strength or a little bit of load, weight, etc. The third strategy is to understand what muscles are really supporting you when you're weight bearing. In yoga, this is a lot of wrist extension. So once you expose yourself to that movement, then you want to work, especially with your core and your neutral, stable torso and spine. I often say in class, you never hear people compliment a bodybuilder on their well-shaped wrist muscles. It doesn't exist. This is not something you want to work on having necessarily strong wrists. You want to understand the muscles that are actually doing the majority of the work. Bigger muscles, core muscles, glute muscles, leg muscles. And in this class, especially focusing on a strong, neutral, stable core. Let's get started. We need all of the classic yoga props. So 2 blocks, a bolster, a belt, and then some non-traditional props. For this practice, you need a cell phone and you need 2 rubber bands. They can be any kind of rubber bands, office rubber bands, hair ties, etc. Let's start with the yoga belt. I want you to have a loop in your belt. And if you only have a dog leash or another belt, that's fine. You can tie it, but it needs to be taut. So we create a taut loop, and it's going to be as wide as our shoulders, from shoulder cap to shoulder cap wide, so that you then have a stable loop that won't slide. So if you need to tie it in a knot, then do that so you make sure that you have that stopping point with your loop. And if you have a belt that's brand new, it'll probably catch. Mine's well loved. So put that belt near you. You can move your other props out of the way. Of course, if you like a blanket for under your skull, you can have that. And we'll lay back. You could have your knees bent, your feet planted, or you could have the bolster underneath your knees. Let's start with some breath awareness. Breath awareness and core awareness are intimately linked. So you can place your hands on your ribs. Make sure your back feels comfortable. Once again, you could have totally bent knees. You might wiggle your jaw, or even slightly draw your shoulders down your back. Become aware of your inhales. Imagine pouring breath in like filling a vase. And when you get to the top of the vase, see if you can pour in just a little bit more, and go ahead and hold your breath on your inhale. And then exhale, pour your breath out. Do this a few times, taking an inhale and pausing at the top. You might notice just gentle sensations of stretch around the ribs, the intercostal muscles. Then as you hold your inhale, notice any bracing feelings or holding feelings so that you can hold your core like a cylinder that's full, or maybe like a balloon that is full of air. So that's some awareness that you can hold your core, you can brace your core at the top of an inhale. All right, let's do the opposite. Focus on your exhales now. And cultivate that same pause at the bottom of your exhale. You might notice sensation of the muscles going in and down. So if the inhale breath was a full balloon, right, the exhale breath would be slowly letting all that air out, or pouring all the water out of the vase. And you can also find core stability here. So when you exhale all the breath out, you do the same thing. You hug or tighten, whatever your word is, or brace your core in. So if the inhale was holding or bracing your core out, the exhale is holding the core or bracing the core in. Play with both of them. It's similar to pelvic tilts, but we're not involving the glutes. We're not purposely tilting the pelvis. Of course, you can always add that dynamic. So the beginning of the core awareness, the awareness that you can hold the core whether you have the volume of the air in or out. All right, let's move on. Take your wrists straight up to the ceiling. You can just relax your back, have a nice neutral spine, and simply circle your wrists. Get a little movement. And circle them both directions. And then make a fist with your thumb inside of your fingers. And then spread your fingers out like a sun. Fist, spread like little blinkers. Now make a fist with your thumb out and blinker. Thumb out and blinker. One more time, thumb out and blinker. And then just shake your wrists a little bit. With your left hand, grab your right wrist and almost like the world's gentlest little friction burn, begin to wrap or churn your wrist left and right, like a rolling pin. So you're giving yourself a massage of your little forearm muscles, and you can start to churn down towards your elbow. You know, like if you had a sibling, sometimes we would give each other rug burns like this. It's not that hard, right? It's just a gentle massage. Okay, and then do the other side. Now, if even this motion hurts your wrist, I will have a massage version later where we won't use the wrist at all. We'll use blocks. So you're sort of rolling, pinning these little flexor and extender muscles side to side. And then go ahead and shake out your hands again. Okay, let's start addressing some of the other muscles in the arm. So grab that belt and place the belt so that it's around your forearms, your lower arms. So it's not above your elbows, it's in between your elbows and wrists. I like it right in between, but see what works for you. Then take the eyes of your elbows and try to move them towards each other. They won't go all the way towards each other, most likely. And pull that belt apart so it's taut. So that's why we maybe had to tie the knot. So you're pulling your hands away from each other. And then inhale, reach your arms up any amount. Keep that tension of your arms pulling the belt apart. And exhale, keep the tension, bring your hands down towards your legs. Let's do this twice more. Inhale, you're pulling the belt apart. Exhale, hands back down. And one more time, inhale. And exhale. Okay, take the hands straight up to the ceiling. We're going to do a little bit of dead bug work, core work. Hug the core in, right? Like you're maybe crumpling a paper bag. Take an inhale. Notice how you can brace your core. Take an exhale. Notice how you can brace your core. Then pick your knees up. Inhale, touch your knees towards the belt. Exhale, take your feet back down to the bolster or the floor. Here you go. Inhale, knees up. Exhale, feet down. So you might notice this is a little bit like a plank pose or a little bit like some of our weight-bearing work, like when we step one knee through the hands in a vinyasa flow class. But there's nothing much going on in the wrists, right? Okay, let's do one leg at a time. So have this dead bug position, this tabletop on your back. Notice on an inhale, you can hold your core. Notice on an exhale, you can hold your core. Okay, and then just tap your left foot down. You can be bent. Lift it up. Tap your right foot down. Lift it up. Left foot. Up. Right foot. Take both feet down. Let's get rid of the belt. Now, if your low back is responding, maybe the core isn't hugging quite the way you want it to, or maybe you just need a little massage of your back. You could windshield wiper. You could hug your knees into your chest. And we'll do one more thing on our back. So full dead bugs, full opposite arm and leg poses. So same position, knees bent, feet lifted, hands up just like they were with the belt. This time we do opposite arm and leg. So inhale, as you tap your left foot down, bring your right arm over your ear. And exhale, come back up. Your core stays stable, your spine stays stable. You switch legs and come back up. Good, keep playing with this. So how do you know if your core isn't stable, right? If your low back is tilting up and off the floor like a cat and cow pose, then maybe you just do less. Maybe your knee goes forward a few inches. If there's any popping feelings in your hips, same thing, you do less. Or you hug your core into the midline a little more. The next time that your right leg goes down, let that be your last one. And then hug your knees or rock or take your windshield wipers, whatever transition that you like. Okay, roll over to one side. And go ahead and drag yourself up. Move your bolster out of the way. We will be on our knees for a little bit. If your knees are sensitive, you can put a blanket under your knees. We're going to grab our 2 blocks. So take your 2 blocks to the front of your mat and have them about shoulder distance wide. And then we take our forearms, those same bones that we were massaging, same muscles, and you put them on the blocks. So once again, wrists are free. And if you're anything like me, my belly, my whole rib and torso sort of sailed down to the floor. So my core right now is not supporting my low back. So just like we did on the floor, go ahead and lengthen the torso. Take an inhale, brace the core out. And exhale, brace the core in. If it's difficult to understand, yes, you could tilt your sit bones down or firm your glutes. And then start to notice what your shoulders and arms are doing. And if you're kind of hanging down into your shoulders, root down into the forearms and lift your biceps, your inner arms, like they're going to go up into your sockets. So now you have your core involved and your arms involved. Almost feels like you're pushing the blocks away from you. Then look at your hands and bring your fingers towards each other. So like you could touch your middle fingers in and then bring your hands out away from each other. So don't let your knuckles move, just your wrists moving out and moving in. In fact, you want your hands like spatula hands. So you don't want your spatula to collapse. Come back to center, turn your palms down to the floor, and same thing, spatula fingers, bring the fingers down like you could pat the block with your middle fingers, and then lift your middle fingers up to the ceiling. So here we are in our exposure. We're exposing our wrists to this movement without bearing weight on them. If, when you move your hands in a certain way, it causes pain, back out and don't go as far. Okay, palms face down. Now do the same out and in, but your palms are facing down. So hands out, in, yes. And then I want you to play with full circles without bending your knuckles. Full rotations of the wrist without any of this, okay? So these are called controlled articulations. So we're just working with this area and no other area. And same thing, if one movement bothers you, do less. Okay, if you want to wiggle your fingers, play piano fingers, or shake them out. Now we'll do the massage I was talking about earlier. So I call this a violin massage. I've never played the violin, forgive me. You can stay at the top of your mat. I'm just turning towards you so I can show you. So I'm going to take my right arm, and I'm going to play my left forearm muscles side to side. So it's a very similar massage. And you might turn your palm up and see how that feels. Oh, that feels good right now. You can turn your palm down and massage some of these muscles, like that little egg muscle that tennis players have, right? You don't always notice these little muscles until you do something like play golf or play tennis, and the next day you're like, whoa. All right, switch. So everything gentle. You're just finding these long, thin muscles and giving them a little cross friction, little massage. So my left one is more sensitive than my right. Maybe I'm walking my dog on the left and I'm really in training mode with him. Heel. Stressing out my arm. Palms could be up, palms could be down. I mean, I'm playing violin side to side, but there's also maybe a circular motion. Okay, whew. Let's come up to kneel. And do any feel-good movement with your shoulders, your neck, your upper back. When our wrists feel like they're in pain, it could follow all the way up to your shoulders and make you feel tense. Okay, let's add a little bit more core work. So you're still at the front of the mat, blocks are still in the same position. And we'll essentially just do what we did on our back, but we're gonna add a little tiny bit of load, a little tiny bit of weight. So I want you to grab your bolster or whatever pillow you have. And I want you to put this pillow on your low back. So hopefully this bolster, this pillow serves as a little highlighter to highlight this area, and return your forearms to the blocks. So go ahead and let your belly and your ribs sink down and the bolster sink down. So this is probably us not holding our core or engaging our core to the midline. So now hug all the muscles of the torso to the midline. Okay, like that vase breath. Or it might feel like you're gently pressing that bolster up towards the ceiling. Row your elbows back so you get some back muscles working. And then the same movement we did earlier. Take your right leg back, reach your left arm forward, like the dead bug, opposite arm and leg pose. Take an inhale, press up into that bolster. Exhale, come down. Look straight down as well, so your neck is long. Roll your arms back into the sockets, chest wide. Take the left leg back, right in line with your glutes, right arm forward. Press gently up into that bolster. Do one more on each side. So now it's making more sense, like, oh, this is the plank pose. This is the forearm plank, the chaturanga, all these weight-bearing things we do in yoga. But once again, we've just gotten rid of the shape of the hands that can bother some of us, that extension of the wrists. Okay. And then go ahead and release, scoot that bolster out of your way. Bring your fingertips to the blocks. So now we're getting a little bit closer to bearing weight on the wrists. And the kind of step through that we do in yoga a lot, the inhale, one leg up, exhale, step it through. But now trying to do it without that flat palm wrist extension. So take your inhale. Exhale, really round your back, scoop your belly, pick your right foot up, and step it through, right? Your body's totally capable of doing that without your wrist. Tuck the back toe, lift the back knee. Firm your glutes. So like you could take your right glute back, your left glute forward. Lengthen your core. Take an inhale, brace your torso out. Take an exhale, brace your torso in. Hopefully your wrists are still not really involved, right? Your legs are holding you. Your glutes are holding you. Your core is holding you. Take one more inhale. Exhale, gently lower to your left knee, untuck the toe. On an exhale, scoop your core and put your knee back. You can also have these blocks on their highest setting too. All right, just fingertips, little cupcake fingertips. Inhale. Exhale, round your back like cat pose, like a scared cat. Step the left foot through. Tuck the back toe, lift the back knee. Firm your glutes, left glutes backwards, right glutes forwards. Take the muscles of your upper back onto your back. Practice hugging your core out. Practice hugging your core in. Yeah, try one more time. If it's going into your front knee, make sure your back leg is rooted. And then gently lower onto your back knee. Untuck the toe. On an exhale, round your back, scoop your core out of your wrist like a hot air balloon. And bring your left knee back. Yeah? Okay, same thing with down dog. We can do down dog with other wrists. So grab your blocks like Lego hands is what I call these, right? If you think about how the little Lego man's hands look. or Lego person, Lego lady. There's every Lego. They all have these little hands. Although I haven't seen a Lego in many years, so maybe they have new variations. Tuck your toes, downward facing dog. So if this is still too much sensation, just kind of exposing the wrists more to the weight bearing, then the same thing can be done on the forearms, right? You can do a forearm downward facing dog with or without blocks, depending on how soft your blocks are. And then the same idea, I want you to lift pressure out of your wrists. So maybe bend your knees a little bit. Hug your core up. Hug your arm muscles up. All the little muscles we massaged, imagine they can lift up into your shoulder sockets. Take one more inhale and exhale, lower down. Okay, one more thing here on our knees. So once again, if they're bothering you, pad them. And this can actually be done standing. It can be done seated. It can be done anywhere. We're going to do another controlled articulation of our wrist. And this one will strengthen these little muscles. So I use a cell phone for this movement because I like to use a more high stakes object. You can use a block. I find a block is harder to balance. So what you want is something that will balance on your forearm and something that you don't want to drop, which I think raises the stakes. And this is going to help strengthen all the little muscles and really bring some stability into the back. So I want you to cuff your back muscles onto your back and hug your arm into your side body. So like you're a little forklift. And then it's the same motions we played with earlier. You're going to take the hand with the cell phone in and out. And it's just like I'm even sloppier than I want to be. I see myself on moving. You just want to move your hand. So if we talk about quote unquote strengthening the wrists, what we're really doing is building the controlled range of motion. And the same thing we did on the blocks. You can have your fingers go up and down. And same thing, you don't want to use your knuckles. So it's our spatula hands. You could also work your core while you're at it. You can take your glutes down and hug your core into the midline. And then you can take the full circles. If you want to get daring, you can do it with the arm slightly forward. It's just a tiny bit harder not to. See, I even noticed my elbow moving in. It's harder to control it. And we think, well, I don't need this much control. But then we're sitting at our desk doing the mouse, texting and typing, and you do actually want to have these articulations. Okay, switch. Okay, so at first I'm going to cuff everything. Arm hugs in, back muscles hug, core, glutes, and I'll go side to side. Now I notice a lot of difference because this is my mouse hand and the hand I use on any kind of screen. So I notice I don't have quite as much movement on this hand. Yeah, I'm trying to will my hand over there, right? Up and down. And this could be a nice break for you just in the middle of your workday. Get something you want to balance. Full circles. Once again, I noticed my knuckles trying to get involved. It's just the wrists. And I'm a little scared to do it on this side, to move my elbow forward. I mean, you could do it with your arm straight. It's going to be more control. Oh yeah, this is a lot harder with my arm straight. You can't tell about my arm is straight. Oh. Okay, that's definitely homework. You can do that anytime. It's really, really great to be able to control those movements. All right, let's get off our knees. So you can do another dolphin or downward facing dog. And then walk your feet wide and walk your tippy fingers, your hands back to your feet. Bend your knees a lot. Let your neck go. You could add a little movement, any variations you want with your arms. And then hands to your hips, long spine, come up to stand. All right, go ahead and move your blocks. And grab your hair ties or your rubber bands. I'm going to take a Virabhadrasana 2, so not a vinyasa style, a static style. So first, put the rubber bands over your fingers. So we were only working spatula fingers before, now we're going to work the opposite. So if they're too far down, they'll just go down your wrist. So you really want them at your fingers. Sometimes I kind of use my thumb as a shelf. Okay, step into the center of your mat. So Warrior 2 or all your standing postures can be done without vinyasa flow. You take your arms out to the sides and just step your feet wide. Okay, starting with the right leg. Turn your left toes in slightly. Turn your right leg open a lot. Deepen your hip socket. Front heel to back arch alignment. So as your left leg holds you, so firm the left leg, bend into the right knee. Hug the torso to the midline and try to pull your rubber bands apart and then relax. And pull and relax. And even the first time I did it, I noticed my shoulders trying to do it. Yeah, and you don't go so much that they snap down your wrists. You feel like a little puppeteer. Do puppeteers have really strong finger digit muscles there? Interesting. Now, slip the thumb out and pull the bands apart, the rubber bands. And now the rubber bands might slide down. That's fine because we're going to turn the palms down. Feel like you're pressing into 2 countertops. And then gaze over your right middle finger, Warrior 2. So you're abducting your fingers, you're spreading them apart. Now do the opposite. Squeeze all your fingers together like the rubber band could get looser. Now, pull the fingers apart, rubber bands tighter. Squeeze fingers together. One more time. Adduct your fingers. Abduct. I said it backwards, but I don't know if you noticed. And then lift your right leg up and parallel your feet. All right, let's switch sides. Turn your right foot in a little bit. Turn your left leg open, deepen your hip socket. Replace your rubber bands so they're closer towards your fingernails. Take your arms out to the sides. Firm the right leg, bend into the left, and you're going to blinker those rubber bands. Not so much that they snap down your hands. At a physical therapy store once, I found a little foam thing that did this. It kind of did look like a finger puppet situation. So you're strengthening the fingers in sort of the opposite way of texting and typing. Okay, then free your thumbs and imagine sort of pushing down like you have 2 countertops underneath your palms. Hug the midline and then pull the fingers apart, so abduct the fingers and then squeeze them together, adduct. Pull apart like the belt's gonna get wider, the rubber band, and then squeeze. Spread and squeeze, yeah. And then turn your head, look towards your left middle finger and squeeze all your fingers together. Keep pushing down into the imaginary countertops. Straighten the front leg, parallel the feet, relax the arms. Another thing you can do at your desk, you're on your Zoom call, and You're just strengthening your wrists in this way. Okay, you can get rid of those rubber bands. Let's try to take a whole sun salutation to the floor without fully extending our wrists. So once again, we'll use our blocks. Blocks to the front of the mat, any height setting you want, although if you do want to try the down dog without the forearms, the regular down dog, probably medium or low setting. All right, step in between your blocks. Take your palms, roll them forward so your back muscles hug your back. And if you're anything like me, this might splay the front of your core. So hug the front of your core in, almost like you're drawing a V down the core towards the belly button. This might have the side effect of engaging the glutes down. So back muscles on the back, core hugging, glutes down. Lift the crown of the head straight up to the ceiling. So if you find yourself in the vinyasa class and you want to take the vinyasas without the wrists, inhale, reach your arms any amount up that feels okay for your shoulders. Exhale, bend your knees. You can put your fingertips on the blocks. Let your neck go. Inhale, half full. Instead of hopping, you step your right foot back. Take your Lego hands, and you can use your knee or not to step the left leg back. Now you have a little exposure of weight bearing your wrists. Lift your arms, lift your core, lift your thighs out of your wrists. This can also be done on your knees and your cupcake fingers. Shift forward. Now, how do we take that push-up chaturanga? We can lower our forearms to the blocks or the floor and hold a forearm plank, right? Hold for 5, 4, however long the class is taking the vinyasa. Sometimes they're very fast. Then use your knees, lower down to your belly. Take your arms out wide instead of the cobra or the up dog. Take an airplane pose, reach the arms out, lift the chest. Take the hands back down. Return your fingertips to the floor or your Lego hands. Now you have to really hug all the muscles to get back up without wrist pain. So muscles of your upper back on your back, glutes down, core in, and you try to use your cupcake fingers to come up. Now that's way harder than it seems without weight bearing on your wrists. So some of us won't be ready for that. So instead, if that was like, that's not happening, you would be in your airplane. You can return to your forearm plank, then lower to your knees. And then you could take your forearm plank or your down dog. Once we try the fingertip stuff, we realize how much we're digging into our wrists. Okay, so you're in your down dog or your dolphin forearm down dog. And then we come up the same way. Other people are stepping or hopping. We do fingertips or blocks. Round the back like we practiced earlier. Step the right foot through. Left leg lifts and is powerful. Step the left leg through. Inhale, half fold. Exhale, fold in. Reach your arms out and up. Let's do one more without the blocks so you can see. If you like the blocks, keep them. Here we go. Inhale. Reach the arms up. Hug the core to the midline. Exhale, fold in. Half fold. I'm fully weight bearing in my legs. I just have my fingertips as I step my left leg back. Then I'll lower to the left knee, scoop the core, and wiggle your right knee back. Lower to your forearms, forearm plank instead of the push-up. Lower to your belly, Vimanasana, instead of the cobra or the up dog. Return to your forearm plank. Lower to your knees, down dog or your dolphin pose. When everyone else is stepping or hopping through, you find your cupcake fingers or your blocks, scoop your core, wiggle your left foot through. I'm barely using my arms at all as you tuck the back toe, lift the back knee. The legs are holding you. You step forward. Half fold, your fingertips can go up your shins. Exhale, fold in. Reach the arms up any amount that feels good on your shoulders. Hands through your heart. No wrist vinyasas. All right, let's find our way down onto our back. If you want another no wrist vinyasa, you can do that. Or you can fold in, crawl down to your knees. We'll find our way onto our back. Do have your bolster near you. So we're going to do a little bit more exposure of our wrist to weight bearing. So make sure that your back feels comfortable and neutral. I'm going to bend my knees, plant my feet. And then we'll grab the bolster, and basically you're going to take it into the plank pose shape. Now hopefully the pillow or the bolster you're holding is not too heavy. If this much exposure is painful, right, if holding this bolster in this much extension is too much, then I want you to return to the dead bugs we did at the beginning of class. Okay. You can also use blocks, because once again, blocks are cumbersome. You could use 2 cell phones. Here we go. On an inhale, I'm going to take that bolster overhead any amount without it falling. And then exhale, bring it back up to center. Do this a few times. As the bolster goes back, you kind of have to gas pedal into your fingers a little bit, and the hands go a little bit more neutral. This also depends on your shoulders, how far up above your ears your shoulders are comfortable going. And same thing, practice controlling your core. So instead of your ribs flaring up as the arms go back, you see if you can control them in. So I think 2 cell phones would be very light, but also have the stakes that we're looking for. I don't want to suggest you use something that you're going to break, right? You're like, oh, you said I could use anything. 2 champagne flutes. Take 1 more. And then you just notice how this is a plank, right? You could hug your core and straighten your legs. It seems more like a plank. It might seem like a handstand, right? If you bend one knee, it's like stepping through. But of course, the stakes are much lower. Just a few times pedal the fingers up and down. And like I said, if you have an acute thing going on, this might be too much. It's totally understandable. Okay, and then take the bolster out of your way. Just give your wrists a little shake. Okay, hug your right knee to your chest, but I want you to take your right wrist behind your right knee. You can take your left wrist too. So instead of like grabbing, you're getting a little pressure massage. My left hand isn't really doing much. And then straighten your right leg. So it's the same knee to chest we always do, but we're getting a little wrist compression. And the same thing on the left. So you're taking your left wrist behind your left knee. Your right hand can really be wherever it wants to be, on your left hand or on top of the knee. It's the same knee to chest pose, but you're getting just a little bit of a bracing, massaging, compression feeling. And then both knees, both wrists. And some people like this compression feeling and some people don't. So if you don't like it, hands in front. And then you could give yourself a little extra massage by lifting the feet up and down. Once again, some people like it, some people don't. And take the feet down, take the arms out to the sides. Windshield wiper the legs side to side. Knock the knees together. And I'm going to leave you here today. You can move into any Shavasana you want, legs up the wall. Maybe it's a nice time for a seated meditation. Take a moment in some way to absorb your practice. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.